My name is Shriya Gurjar, and I'll be presenting my research on the design and construction of a miniature flow-through conductivity detector. Have you ever wondered how labs detect the purity of water, especially water so pure that it's called DI water or ultra pure water? The principle that this works on is actually a fundamental property of water. Its poor conductance of electricity. Water, a polar compound, requires ionic impurities to dissociate into hydrogen and hydroxide ions, and a conductivity detector utilizes this principle to measure the electric current across its electrodes and thus the conductivity of the water. We attempt to make this in our own lab since we aim to produce conductivity water, which is water with a resistivity of 18 megaohm centimeter on the nanoliter per minute scale. To detect the purity of water on such a scale, using inexpensive materials that is still easy to construct is why we're making this in our own lab. The first component is a flow-through cell, which was made using two stainless steel needles placed barely touching in a PTFE tube. The body of the needles was then soldered to two lead wires and covered with conductive epoxy. The needles act as electrodes, and we can measure the electric current across these electrodes and thus the purity of the water. The second component is a full wave rectifier, which has the purpose of converting AC input into DC output, which is required for our data acquisition system. It was constructed by referencing the datasheet of PNTL082, which is this pin right here, and, designing and placing the components on the PC board, soldering them in place, and then calibrating it. The square wave generator was constructed using a similar process, except the datasheet referenced was of PNNE555N. The purpose of a square wave generator is the exact opposite of a rectifier. It takes DC input and converts it to a 50% square wave duty cycle waves, which is required for our flow through cell right here, since anything more than or less than 50% and our electrodes accumulate a positive or a negative charge and thus producing hydrogen and oxygen gas, which is something we do not want. The flow-through cell was calibrated by measuring the blank conductance of water as 155 nanosiemens, the conductance of 1 millimolar KCl as 1.4 microsiemens, and then comparing our measured conductance to the known standard conductance of 1 millimolar KCl, which is 147 microsiemens, and thus the cell constant was found to be 170 per centimeter. Our full wave rectifier was calibrated by comparing DC output values for each AC input values and then graphing it. It's interesting to note that the R square value is 1, which is a perfect one and highly unlikely. But if you can see, the later points over here do tend to deviate from a line of best fit. The square wave generator displayed a 70% duty cycle on our oscilloscope. By altering the combination of resistors and capacitors, we hope to get our desired 50% duty cycle. In my research, I successfully constructed a miniature flow-through cell, a full-wave rectifier, and a square-wave generator. The next step is to put all of these components together with our digital panel meter, our power input cord, and analog output terminals in a project box, which will, as a whole, act as our conductivity detector. I wish to thank Dr. Das Gupta and Chandan Chaudhary for their support and guidance throughout this project. Thank you.